So when someone dies, I think one of the most important things is to find a place to remember them, a safe place that's okay for you. And it might be in the early days when we're hurting so much, maybe just light a candle in the evening. I think ritual can be really helpful. I sometimes get people to imagine what was the person's favourite flower, and then to buy those flowers and put them in a vase next to a photograph of them. And if you didn't know what their favourite flower, find one that actually you think would be their favourite flower, or which reminds you of them. How do we remember? I guess for a lot of people, having a gravestone is a place for remembrance, and it can be really important to find a place to remember, to sit with them, to just be with them. And often people find it comforting to go to a specific place. Some people might scatter ashes on a beach, and then maybe to go there and to be able to sit on that beach and remember can be really important. Sometimes to take flowers and cast out to sea can be another part, to maybe celebrate birthdays or anniversaries. I think all of those are milestones, all of those are important steps in our moving forward in our life. It might be that that person that you love enjoyed a particular sport, or had a particular passion. It might be to partake in that passion. It might be painful at first to go and visit cities or towns or beaches or places that we've experienced with a loved one, but actually it might bring us comfort. But just be aware, it might do both, but it might be okay to do it. I think clothes are an incredibly difficult area for people, and I know people who 4 or 5 years on haven't touched the clothes because it's too painful for them. And I know people who the day after the funeral or the day after the death have actually sorted them through and sent them off to charity shops. There's no rights or wrongs in any of this. We feel our way into what's right. But some things with clothes can be incredibly powerful, but also really comforting. I know one lady who, when her husband was alive, he had this old jumper which was probably had cigarette burns. It was that type of jumper, and bobbles and everything. She hated it, and the number of times she tried to throw it in the bin. When he died, it's become her most treasured possession, and actually she's had it made into a cushion which she can sit and hug. And I think doing things like that can be important. Some people have shirts made into cushions. I know one person who said, well, her husband never worked while he was alive, he's jolly well going to work now he's dead, and she's had his shirt made into a shopping bag to make him help with the shopping when she goes out shopping. So that there can be humour in it, but also it can be incredibly poignant that we have something of our loved one. I know that one lady's actually undid her husband's ties and have them made into a cushion. Another one had a t-shirt made into a cushion, and also the other side was his favourite jeans. And you can actually have photos actually, I don't know if you say engraved, that's not the right word, photocopied onto material and actually sew them onto it. It might be for children. You could have a teddy bear made. One man had a kilt, and he had 5 stepchildren and his own children, and they didn't know what to do with the kilt, and nobody particularly wanted to wear a kilt, so they had it made into teddy bears, and each of them had a little teddy bear made out of that kilt, very small but beautiful. And there are places, if you look online, to memory clothes. Quilts or a quilt cover. You can have a patchwork quilt made from maybe the ordinary everyday clothes somebody wore, and actually you don't quite know what to do with, but you don't want to let them go. They can be made into a quilt, which can be comforting to wrap around us or to put on the bed at night, and somehow we feel them close. And I think some people keep some clothes because that's something that they just can't bear to get rid of. It's almost getting rid of them again if they get rid of the clothes, but there are no rights or wrongs. That might not be right for some people. Memory boxes can be incredibly important. There are companies that can engrave lettering or engrave photos onto a box, and then to put really important things. It might be a perfume or aftershave, it might be a pen, it might be their watch, it might be something really important. It might be photographs, and maybe write on the back of photographs, write, you know, a memory of that time. That can be really helpful, and sit with that memory box sometimes, to actually sit, and some people just sit and hug it because they know their memories are in there, but it gives them permission to actually just sit with the person that they love. Memory boxes, memory jars. I don't know if any of you might have seen a few years ago, there's a famous footballer who lost his wife, and he found it really difficult to talk about his grief, even with his children. And by the end of actually opening up to other people who had experienced a bereavement, he sat with his children. There was a really moving moment when they all sat down and they started to write memories on pieces of paper, and then they'd fold them up and they'd put them into a memory jar. And then once, maybe every couple of months, they'd take all those memories out and read them to each other. And it was a time of remembering, but a time of great love in that moment, sometimes of humour when they remembered the person, and it almost gave them permission to remember together, whereas sometimes I think we just remember individually, and sometimes we don't want to share a memory because it might make the other person sad, but actually that memory's there. How do we access those memories? Maybe keeping a journal can be really important. I know one man who lost his wife of 46 years, the hardest bit for him was he would talk non-stop to his wife. That was it. They were all the time. And when she died, who was he to talk to? So he was actually able to start to write a letter. We worked on it together, and he wrote a letter every day. You know, those pine trees you wanted me to chop down, I've actually chopped them down now. You'd be really pleased. I really miss you. And he never closed the letter. He just used to say, see you tomorrow. And for a while, that became really important for him, to say all the things that was in his heart, all the things that annoyed him, all the things that she nagged him about. He wanted to share with her all over again, and he would have done anything for her to come back and have nagged him again, but he knew that she couldn't. So he tried to work all that out through letter writing to her. After about a year, he realised he didn't have to write every day, and he maybe wrote once a week, and then it became once every few weeks, and then he wrote to her always on her birthday and her anniversary, and that was enough for him as he moved forward in his life. But always she was here, he found her in here, and that was really important. Photographs and videos, I've just been watching some over the last few days of members of my own family, and it's really interesting looking back now. And I was looking at videos or DVD I've had put onto DVD about 10 years ago, and just recently I've started to watch them. And there's that warmth of memory and that connection of love, and hearing how my mum would say my voice or my dad would laugh. And it was so familiar and yet so strange, and yet it was incredibly comforting. I don't think I could have watched them straight away, but with time I'm able to, and actually they're incorporated into my life. They're in here, and they always will be. They're always a part of who I am, and that's important for us to carry. Art can be a way of expressing emotions. I know that some person was really experiencing incredible anger after the death of somebody in their family, and I remember seeing the piece of artwork, and it was just red with a black blob in the middle, and you could see, gosh, this person's angry, but they couldn't put it into words, so they expressed it through that bit and just throwing the red onto the paper. So there can be lots of ways of expressing emotion and expressing our grief, and sometimes I think really important maybe just to sit a while, light a candle, just sit. Music can be incredibly evocative. Sometimes it can be too painful and too intense, but sometimes it can be comforting to sit and listen to a piece of music. And I often say to people, when was the last time you actually sat and listened to a piece of music, but sat and were present with this piece of music? We do it when we're ironing, or we're doing the dishes, and we'll have a bop in the kitchen, or we'll be reflective, but always we're doing something else. Sometimes to sit, maybe you've got your favourite music that will remind you of that person, and if it's not too painful, just sit a while and remember. And I think in remembering, we're holding them close, and we're working out how to incorporate them into their lives. Their love is always there, it hasn't changed. I think death doesn't end the relationship. Our relationship carries on always. My mum will be my mum, my dad will be my dad. The people who have lost, who have died that we've lost, are always there. We will love them forever, however forever is for us. And it's just remembering and allowing ourselves to remember the good bits, the difficult bits. We work through all of those emotions, but sitting with them, sometimes we can reconnect with them, we can think about them. So for example, I might say, if I was really struggling when I was a kid, what did my mum do? My mum probably would have just sat alongside me and made me a cup of tea, because she found it difficult to voice emotions, but I know that she cared through just sitting alongside me. So sometimes now I make a cup of tea and I sit, and my mum's there alongside me. So don't be afraid of remembering and allowing them just to be with you.